So I spent 4 years arguing with MAGA online. I was in the trenches. I was in the thick of it. It was my career arguing that the 2020 election wasn't stolen. Mainly on the premise that it made absolutely no sense that while Trump and his administration were in charge, an election happened, but somehow Democrats managed to steal it. That didn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't make any sense to me. I now find myself making the exact same argument to Democrats because there is now a widespread belief that like somehow 2024 was stolen. Same argument I have. Joe Biden and his administration were in charge. Literally, his vice president was running in the election. How you could let it be stolen from you makes zero sense.
Hmm.
Nothing, I think, embodies this argument I am having more than the recent rebrand of former MAGA influencer Ashley St. Clair. And one of her main talking points now is that for people who don't know, Ashley St. Clair is one of Elon Musk's
Baby mamas.
several baby mamas. And she was a former MAGA influencer who is now trying to rebrand because she had a massive falling out with Elon. And she's kind of like riding on this election denialism. Like, if you watch the main video that came out a couple weeks ago, was her basically quote unquote confirming it all and saying, well, Elon was talking about how his satellites were involved and, you know, he knew the outcome of the election hours ahead of everyone else. And I have
Because
seen
Elon's never made a false claim.
never, no.
Never.
He the reason I bring all this together is because if you look in the comment sections of like her clips and clips associated of it and everything, it is just nothing but people on the left being like, I knew it was true. I knew he didn't win. I knew this election was stolen from us. So I find myself now caught in no man's land between two elections where both sides are denying that they lost, making basically the exact same arguments. And we now have like a class of political influencers that are riding on this on both sides. For 4 years, we've had conservatives doing it. Now we have left leaning political content creators kind of doing the same thing. I mean, Ashley St. Clair was recently on Hassan's podcast where she was basically touting the same talking points. And
Yeah, and she was on Gavin Newsom's podcast or YouTube channel
oh, I did
claiming
see
the same
that.
things.
I did see that. I forgot about
I
it.
don't worry, nobody really watched that. He only got like 49,000 views.
It's people need to understand is like the financial ecosystem of online political content creators. Like, Ashley St. Clair did not wake up one day and just be like, "Oh, you know what? I'm actually a leftist now. I just had an epiphany one day and I realized that everything I believe in is actually wrong and I want nothing more than to help change the world back to what it was that and fix the damage I've done." That's not what's happening here, right? She
Yeah, no.
realized that, hey, the grift that I've been running on the right has ran its course. There's no more money to be made from this. Obviously, everyone picked Elon's side, on the right. So now it's like, well, how can I make money? Well, now I've got to be the enemy of the right. They're already making me their enemy, so the enemy of my enemy is my new piggy bank.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it was she thought she had a different relationship with Elon Musk. Like she was going to become number one and, be his wife and to stay home and that was going to be her future, power and influence, right? The wife of the most, the richest man, potentially the first trillionaire, the richest man in the world. Come to find out, maybe she got bamboozled. Maybe, maybe he led her on. I don't know. Maybe she was angry and spiteful from that.
I don't know if she
She
planned on being wife or anything. I definitely, maybe. I definitely think that, like, hey, if I have his child, I'm taken care of for life, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was beyond that. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
if
we don't know what kind
anyone.
of agreements were made behind the scenes, and
Well, she's alleging that she was like offered $40 million for an NDA by
yeah.
Musk's team and everything, and it's
Well, let's talk about accountability. I don't know about you, but I would take the money.
well,
Let's be realistic here. I
I
would take the money.
I think that's one reason
Do you
I
think she was offered that
that's one reason to believe her, to have some skepticism about her claims. I don't
it's
think.
it's it's hard out here on these streets nowadays. Milk is $5 a gallon, bread is $5 a loaf. Somebody offers me $40 million to shut my mouth about something, I'm taking it.
Listen. Here's my thing, right?
I'm
All
not
right.
saying I have the best morals, but
Listen. Here's my thing, right? Let's be objectively honest here. If Elon Musk was not a built multi-billionaire, potentially soon to be the world's first trillionaire, if you saw him in a grocery store, just like your local Walmart, Target, Kroger's, whatever, you'd be like, wow, that guy looks very scary. I'm staying away from him. Grab the children. Come on, we're going to go around to the other side of the aisle. We're going to go. We're going to take the long way around.
why is this guy staring menacingly at the pumice?
You, like, but meanwhile, you look at it, and he's had all these like models and actresses, and I'm not saying that they sold out. I'm kind of implying it, but if you are having a child with him, potentially, how do I want to say this? No one is like waking up like tomorrow and being like, "Oh my god, actually, I think he's the greatest guy on the planet. I really foresee a future with him, and I think we could have like a very happy family." You're probably in Elon Musk's orbit for ulterior motives. And if you're in his orbit for ulterior motives, if you're offered $40 million, you're probably going to take it.
Yeah.
So have a little bit of skepticism when she's claiming that, like, oh, actually, I couldn't sell out my values for that 40 million. There was just no way I could do it. No, it makes for a good story, and is like, hey, this
Yeah.
is why I'm credible and on your side, because I have morals and values.
Yeah, I won't sell my soul.
He's she or she's now on
Regardless,
this.
she's getting paid.
Yes,
Let's be
yes. But she's now on this like tour of left-leaning podcasts, and she's trying to rebrand. She's got her own. I know she's got her own TikTok. I don't know if she has her own podcast or anything, but it's definitely. I've seen some of her clips. I haven't watched all of her stuff because they're like 30-minute long get readies with me's, and at
no.
about the 5-minute mark, I want to gouge my eyes out. But uh it's definitely like a rebrand, and it's definitely, if you read her comment sections on them and the podcast she's on and things like that, it is definitely like people kind of falling for it. And it's important to remember that these people, not just her, think of what's his name, Brian Cohen, I think is his name, on the left. You've got Benny Johnson on the right. You got a bunch of up and comers on TikTok, young people like Dean Winters, things like that. These people are making money for saying these things. They're not.
Oh yeah.
Some of them absolutely believe it. I believe one wholeheartedly. But then, like, people like Hassan, for example, he's taking pictures wearing $1,600 shirts with a book, one of
Okay.
Lenin's books, where listen,
Yeah.
I've tried to read one of Lenin's books. I got about halfway through it. I'm going to finish it one day, but
Mm.
this is not light reading. This is not reading you just do to pass the time and entertain yourself.
You mean
These
you shouldn't trust the influencer who's wearing
a
a
$1,600 shirt.
$1,600 Gucci shirt telling you that communism is the best way for everyone?
Yeah, they might have
Mm.
ulterior motives. They
That might,
might be
yeah.
making a lot of money, saying these things.
Yeah.
That's actually one thing that, to bring this actually back to Ashley St. Clair, she's kind of like alleging, and I think it's also kind of playing into this confirmation bias. So she has alleged that there is like centralized talking points that all these MAGA influencers get. That they get like these massive group texts and these group emails and stuff of things they need to say, talking points they need to hit, videos they need to put out and stuff. And it's like possibly partially true. There is
Yeah,
some evidence, but these
I
people
would.
are these
I'd
people
say
are
the
making.
same thing happens on the left.
Oh, absolutely. I've actually got
You
a
know,
documented example of it happening on the left. So I was actually doing some research into this, and political influencers on both sides, they actually don't make a lot of money directly from political parties. Um, just because it's kind of hard for the political parties to do. It's typically how political parties will pay these people is, let's say you are left or right, it doesn't matter. Let's say you are a moderately sized TikTok page, YouTube channel, something like that, and you cover politics. Let's say you're on the left. What will sometimes happen is that like the DNC or a DNC affiliate, or a state party, they'll reach out to you and be like, "Hey, we're having this convention or we're having this
hmm
rally or whatever. How about we give you an all expenses paid? You come out, we'll pay for your hotel room, we'll pay for your food, we'll cover your cab fare, whatever.
Oh yeah.
You get to
Well,
make videos and everything. So we're getting cheap advertising because you're going to go and report this back to your audience. Hey, I'm here at the DNC National Convention, and this is what it's like, and this is the
yeah.
atmosphere."
It's because the algorithms reward emotions, right? And that's big events. Um, if you're an influencer, left or right, you get invited to a convention or the White House, to possibly hold binders of materials about terrible people. It feeds into the algorithm, right? It's going to drive up your viewership. You're going to get money out of that. That's ad revenue. That's how you're getting paid.
Yes,
The,
and
the trip's free. You get paid from the ads
yeah, you
and the
get paid.
algorithm.
You get paid from your, already monetized ecosystem.
Yep.
They're getting free publicity or very cheap publicity in comparison, because it's easier for them to go, "Hey, we're going to cover $400 for your hotel room. Here's $200 for food. Here's $100 for travel." They pay less than $1,000. They get you making 8 videos on them that are all in very pro light, and it's a win-win for both sides.
Yep.
So a lot of times that's how the political parties will quote unquote pay these influencers. However, excuse me, I was looking into this a little bit just to kind of see where they get paid from. There is some kind of dark money in this ecosystem. So the magazine Wired, this is a report from August 2025, so about a year old now, not quite. They found this thing called the 1630 Fund, and basically what it was a bunch of almost like shell companies where they were kind of like passing this money back and forth. And then they had this thing called the Chorus Creator Incubator Program. They invited 90 influencers on the left. This was a pro left leaning thing, where it was basically what Ashley St. Clair described. They were going to get talking points. They were going to have to do regular check-ins with people. They were going to have to basically have their videos approved ahead of time before they could put them out. They were going to have to get any future partnerships or sponsorships approved by this group before they could put them out.
Jeez.
I couldn't find any evidence of people actually going with it. That's not to say that they didn't. That's just I might not have dug deep oh, that was another thing. Sorry, just checking my notes here. They also couldn't acknowledge that they were part of this. That was so they all got contracts for this. They couldn't acknowledge that they were part of this. They could not acknowledge that they were getting any money from this program. They had to act like basically this was all something they came up with by themselves. So if they put out a new video, hey, this is my new video. There was no outside interference. There was no outside influence. This is all me. They had to pretend that.
Oh yeah.
There was some of the contracts that this group found that they could, you know, were offering like $8,000 per month to some of these people to partake in this. So I don't think it's like a fully behind the scenes like coordinated thing, but I think there are groups that are trying to work their
Oh
way
yeah.
into that.
There was a actually did a little research on this as well. There was a case in 2024. I think it was the U.S. Justice Department had like alleged that RT, Russia Today,
Mm-hmm.
Russia's state news media company, they funneled something like 10 or 15 million dollars through. I wrote it down. It was a media company called Tenant Media.
Okay.
Um, they funneled money to conservative influencers, allegedly, right? And I think was- I don't know any of these guys. Tim Pool, Dave
I know
Rubin,
Tim Pool.
and Benny Johnson,
I
allegedly.
I actually know of all three of those. Them.
Yeah. Apparently, they funneled money not directly to all three of these guys, a bunch of like conservative influencers,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them come out and said they didn't know where the true source of the money. I don't think I didn't dig deep enough to see how that money was being funneled to them, whether it was donations or a political pack of some sort. But I remember that allegation from the Justice Department. So I mean, it's happening, right? It's happening from not just political parties, but state sponsors, media,
Well, it's actually
foreign states.
it's. I was gonna kind of bring this up later, but you kind of already touched on it. So there's evidence that shows. Now I don't know how long of a time period this was. This could have been for 1 year. This could have been over the course of several years. I couldn't really find a. I got the impression from what I was reading it was kind of over the course of a moderate period of time. There's documentation that reportedly shows that roughly $900,000. There was an influencer campaign of $900,000 that was ran by the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That they were basically funneling this money to influencers to say good things about Israel. Shocking, they seem to have their hands in everything nowadays. But
shocking.
They allegedly had almost $1 million that they were paying influencers to, and I mean we've seen that. I mean, look, a year ago I think it was when Netanyahu was here, and he had that summit with all those up and coming young influencers and stuff. They aren't dumb. They know that influencers are today's legacy media, the people that your grandparents and parents grew up with, that would be on the radio and be on the news every night. That's influencers today. And Israel knows this, so they're, funneling money into that to make basically propaganda. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. But
wasn't it you and I talked about it a while back, wasn't Netanyahu at like an event for influencers, and he's like, we got to reach out to our people on the right, our political influencers in the United States, to kind of get them talking pro-Israel. We watched that video.
Yeah, it was that was the one I was referencing. That was where he basically said he was talking about the next big war for Israel is the information war, and he was talking about how like TikTok. This was when the sale of TikTok was still a big topic. He's like, we need to control the narrative on TikTok because that's where the next basically culture. That's where the culture war takes place. So we need to win that war to keep Israel in a good light.
Yeah, and I remember after the sale of TikTok, people were, the conspiracy kind of going around, or the rumors that perhaps the Trump administration was kind of like leaning on people in charge of the algorithm of TikTok, like put conservatives in a better light, and potentially shadow banning people who were criticizing the Trump administration. So
The same thing that the right's been crying about for years that they were saying was happening to them, which, to
yeah,
be fair,
yeah,
was in some cases. Look at
was in some
Facebook.
cases.
Um, I did want to point out though that you'd brought up that RT and you'd mentioned Benny Johnson. This is what actually kind of got me into this, even before the Ashley St. Clair thing. I was kind of starting to look into this a lot because I don't know why he started popping up on my social media quite a bit. And he, if you didn't know anything about him, he is the most whatever MAGA is today motherfucker I've ever seen. Um, and I know this because he was probably the most outspoken person I saw on social media against Thomas Massey and Thomas Massey's primary campaign.
Hmm.
Just nonstop sharing things, anti-Massey things. He's a rhino. He hates Trump. This, that, and the other. And I kind of like was doing some digging, and I realized like he is, as Donald Trump has changed his opinion on things, so has this guy. Conveniently enough, whatever Trump says today is like what he's on. That kind of also goes into the where the money comes from, right? So to kind of put this in the simplest terms, these political influencers are more or less gambling. They're hedging their bets. So when they make posts, when they pick political sides and things like that, they're just kind of hoping that's where their audience is going to go. You know,
Yeah.
you
Oh
you
yeah.
so we've seen it all. There've been many influencers. You've seen kind of get canceled for having the wrong view or not adapting correctly. I think the MAGA influencers have been the had it the worst. That if you don't keep up with whatever Trump's saying today, you're getting canceled. Um,
Yep.
so they're kind of like hedging their bets that like, okay, this is what I got to say today, and I'll get my viewers will stay. I'll get more ad revenue. I'll get more sponsorships with whatever company is leaning towards whichever viewpoint I have.
Oh yeah, it's just sticking to the. At the end of the day, both sides stick to their talking points, right? If like Hassan, I'm 100% certain he's probably watching MSNBC on a daily. He's following, what a lot of the people within the establishment are saying, and he's saying the same things. Like, hey, I know what my grassroots
Uh,
viewers want and what they want to hear,
well,
and when what they're hearing as well.
Hassan
Same on
puts
those.
Hassan puts it in a good. They were talking about he's the Joe Rogan of the left, and he's the masculine figure that the left needs and whatnot. So he puts a good spin on it for like Gen Z, and for he's a handsome man who says things right in the right way that like Gen Z and younger millennials and things will um, like to hear. He's not afraid to
Yeah.
swear. He's not afraid to push and whatnot. But then he's also somebody that, like you said, like MSNBC, they can have on or something like that, and he can be all prim and proper and say the nice DNC talking points. He kind of plays both sides of the left.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen him. I will give him full credit. I've seen him, like, clips of him going after his own audience for dumb shit that they've said, or dumb opinions they've had on being far too left. And he's called retards. He says, I can't believe you guys are watching me and viewing me and da da da. I've gained a little respect for him doing that, and it's kind of like him checking people even further left than him in his own
I
audience in his chat.
I have not. I watched the shoe on head video, and I think she gave the single
Oh no,
greatest
she.
description of him possible when she called him the human Brian Griffin. That is the most apt description of anybody I've ever had. When he's sitting on a train in his $1,600 sweater, pretending to read a book Vladimir Lenin wrote,
Mm.
there's no better way of describing him. and like to that point, he's getting all this money from that. He can afford these $1,600 shirts and whatnot. He can afford all these nice jewelry and things, and be on the cover of Vogue magazine or whichever one he was when he was, working out or whatnot. Um, they're
Oh, and you can also criticize, bring up Asmongold, right? He's obviously become more right leaning in a sense, and he has a much larger viewership. I think he's like the second or third most watched person on all of YouTube,
and
and he has like a
he gets an
he,
incredible amount of money from like Kick.
it's a stupid amount of money. And to his credit, I've seen him. I wouldn't say he's completely politically captured. He does I mean, he got in trouble for criticizing Palestine. I think once criticizing Palestine, and another time, criticizing Israel. I think he's been banned for both topics in his opinions. But he also feeds off of the algorithm. Like, he knows what he's
Oh,
doing.
absolutely.
He knows what it's.
He knows the culture war talking points too. I mean, like I was just
Yeah.
watching. I don't know if you saw recently the new God of War. Uh, they had a little 20-minute play of it going on just to kind of show what it was about and whatnot.
Mm.
A woman is the main character. First clip I saw from Asmongold is like, no one's gonna buy this trash. We don't want a woman, and that's not what this is about. And this, that. And it's like, he's got all these fucking incels in his audience going, oh my god, he's speaking truth, and it's like, no, you guys are a minuscule, minority here. Like, but
Yeah.
it's enough that it's enough people that are in his. If he hits those talking points, they're going to keep coming back, and they're going to keep watching his stuff, and he's going to keep getting clips on TikTok, and he's going to keep getting ad revenue, and he's going to
He's
keep
still
getting
going to be
subscriptions.
making $200,000 to $300,000 a month off the ad revenue and the viewers and
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's just from the ad revenue, from the viewers and the subs, and all these other things. He's probably making a shit ton more.
yeah.
Like that's the thing. A lot of these people, I think, they don't even believe what they're saying half the time. It's an act.
Yeah.
I just recently heard a quote. I don't even remember where I heard it from. It said that like Washington D.C. is for people who couldn't make Hollywood. They didn't have the right look for Hollywood. They could act a little bit, but they might not have the look for Hollywood. I would say like these influencers are like a step below that. They couldn't make politics per se, but they can still sell a line, and they can say all the right things to keep getting the money.
No, I mean, I think a lot of these people are smarter than politicians. They know where the money's at, right? Politicians, they make money, especially Nancy Pelosi and her stock trades with insider information. But for the most part, it's just influence. A lot of these politicians have influence. The streamers, they're smarter. They know where the new audience is. They know the influence they have by tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people watching their videos. They know that they're going to make far more than for the most part, any politician. They probably make politicians' salary in a month.
Well,
The right people like Asmongold and
well,
and Hassan.
I think this even goes to the bigger ones too. I mean, for example, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. They've gotten really popular in the past year or so because they've been very
Oh yeah,
critical of Israel. They've been very critical of like Erica Kirk. They've had people on the left on their podcasts and stuff. I just saw recently Anna Kasparian was on Candace's podcast, and Jimmy Dore was on Tucker Carlson's.
really?
Yeah, and Anna Kasparian's like super far left. She's somebody I did greatly admire. She's been on the Young Turks for a very long time. She's pretty. She is where. So I'll say like to the Tucker Carlson thing. Like I don't agree with a lot with a lot of what Tucker Carlson says, but I will respect him in the fact that he hasn't really changed his opinions a lot. He has here and there, when he was on like Fox News and he had the talking points. But since
Yeah.
he's kind of gotten out of that world, he's been pretty much, he's like, hey, I'm MAGA. I make America great again. I'm America first. I'm no new wars. I'm don't want any other foreign country in our politics. He's been pretty consistent in those
Yeah.
views. So with Donald Trump kind of strayed and decided to start doing wars for side quests, Tucker Carlson was critical of him. When Israel
Yeah.
became involved in all this, Tucker Carlson was critical of it. So he was consistent, and now people are thinking like, oh, well, he's on my side. So they're getting an increase in viewership. Same with like
Yep.
Candace Owens with like the whole Brigitte Macron thing. I think that's when she
Hmm.
really jumped up.
Popped
And,
off. Yep. And
and
then the Erica Kirk.
and they're kind of feeding into it a little bit. I think Tucker Carlson's kind of, for example, fed a lot into the whole Israel thing and kind of this little war he's been having with MAGA. I think Candace has kind of fed into it as well, with the Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk situation. They know what they're doing too. They
Yep.
know that there's money to be had in this. Now, I think they have more. Um, uh, they are more secure in their beliefs. I don't think they're as quick to flip flop as somebody like Hassan or
Yeah.
Asmongold
But
or
at the end of the day, they're chasing the algorithm.
yes, absolutely. That's a
A
great
few
way of
months
wording it.
ago, when you and I were consistently doing these podcasts, we were doing the headlines of the week, and we seen our viewership even
Yeah,
on
even we were chasing the algorithm. Once that
we were
Epstein
chasing
file
the algorithm.
popped off, we went from this number to jumping up exponentially
What was
in
it,
the
like
views.
14 or 1600 views on like a YouTube short or a TikTok?
That's a fraction of our views on a bad day. Okay, we got the views. Okay,
we get those numbers.
but we're in this ecosystem too. Insert sponsorship here. But no, like for real though, like that's a great way of wording it. Is that they're chasing the algorithm, they're chasing the views. They know what they're doing as well. Even these bigger ones. I mean,
Hmm.
even bigger ones even in like CNN, like Anderson Cooper or was it Anderson? No, it wasn't Anderson Cooper. Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
the election was over and Kamala lost, hey, here's my tell-all book on why Biden was actually terrible and all
Yep.
this stuff that I've been sitting on for 6 months that everybody knew, but I actively lied to your face about because it wasn't making money. But now I see the political winds changing. Here's a way to make money, and here for the
Hmm.
low price of $19.99, you can buy my book.
He knew there was a lot of discontent on the left for what happened. A lot of like, what the hell was that? And hey, my tell-all book about their campaign. He knew who his audience was. It was those people disparaged on the left who were trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Why did we get bulldozed? He knew people were going to buy into that. He wouldn't tell you the truth during the campaign, but he would definitely tell it to you after the campaign for a low price of $29.99.
And to that point, like they the the right has been in my research on this, the right has been actually a little ahead of the left on this. They've been really good. You mentioned like the disparaged people on the left. The right's been really good at scooping those people up.
Oh yeah.
They've been really good at like, oh, you're a straight white working class man with a high school education. Well, come on in. Hey, you're somebody who doesn't fit the stereotypical left. Let's scoop you right up.
Hmm.
You're an independent who's left leaning, but you
You
wanted
find
Bernie.
yourself lost in the past 8 years. You
You
don't know
wanted
what
Bernie
political party you are.
in 2016. You wanted Bernie, and you feel like you got betrayed. Come on over, and they would
Yep.
say the things that people wanted to hear. Oh well, the Democrats don't care about you. You're being thrown to the side because you don't fit the narrative. You know your vote doesn't matter. Your voice doesn't matter. The left is kind of starting to get into this a little bit more. I think that you're starting to see, you know, them kind of scoop up these influencers. They're trying to like scoop up these not the voters. They don't give a shit about the voters, but I think
No.
as far as the influencer aspect of it, they're
Oh.
starting to get really good at scooping those people up.
Well, so Ashley St. Clair, a podcast with Gavin Newsom. Uh, what's the
Keep in mind,
headline?
a
Wait,
year ago, people on the left hated her.
Yeah. What's the headline recently? SpaceX IPO, right? Elon Musk is going to become the first trillionaire. Elon Musk, very political. what are they going to do? Hey, Ashley, you want to come on over and have a podcast? Tell everything.
Oh yeah,
Tell us everything.
give us your tell-all being inside the MAGA
Mm,
ecosystem and all the terrible things Elon Musk did and how this was actually an inside job. Keep in mind, I want to touch on that quickly. This whole he said he knew hours ahead of time that this was the outcome of the election because his Starlink satellites were involved in this that, and the other. I will say this. I fully 100% wholeheartedly believe Elon Musk said that. I do not believe she's making that up.
yeah,
I one
potentially.
I 100% believe he said that because Elon Musk has to be the smartest person in whatever room he's in.
Hmm.
So when they sit there on election night and call Donald Trump won the 47th presidential election, he's about to be the 47th president. Elon Musk's going to be, of course I knew this. My big brain and my smart,
Hmm.
I'm so much smarter than the average person. Of course I knew this hours ago. This was a foregone
Yeah.
conclusion. How did you chimps not see this? So
Mind you, this is the same guy who's been saying Teslas are going to be self-driving for the past decade,
mind you, this is the
and they
same
are not.
guy that had the largest electric vehicle program in the world, basically, and then decided, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go do what every American manufacturer does. I'm going to go to China and help build a
Yep.
startup there. And then he basically shot himself in the foot because he's a fucking idiot. And now BYD is the biggest one in the world
Yep.
and isn't allowed to be sold in America because they would put Tesla out of business.
Yep. He sold his technology. I mean, he gave up a lot of his Tesla technology to China, BYD, and such. He shot himself in the foot. Mind you, this is also the guy who claims, and people buy into these. I buy into these claims. We'll be on Mars in 10 years. We'll be a base on the moon in 10 years. I buy into that because it's wishful thinking, right? This is the guy who sells headlines and himself. So when he says things like that, sure, I believe 100%. I'm with you on that. He probably did say that, but again, it's because he wants to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, he didn't say it because it
What are we
actually
looking up
happened.
to him? Yeah,
He said it because I'm so much smarter than all of you.
you don't become the world's first trillionaire by being the most trusted guy in the room.
Absolutely. For full disclosure, if Elon Musk has no haters on this planet, I have died and I'm in the ground. Okay, like that. Just full disclosure. Like do not like the guy. So just throwing that out there.
I said all that, but I still like him. SpaceX is
I
awesome.
fucking hate him.
Am I am I buying the stock? No, but I don't think it's worth $2 trillion. But I'll buy it when it's on the low, when it crashes.
Yeah, I think like kind of get this train back on the tracks. I
Yeah.
think he absolutely said that. I think she's using that as a way of, promoting this, riding the confirmation bias on the left to build a new grift, you know, to help, ironically enough, this echo chamber that everybody puts themselves in. And
Hmm.
she's like, well, I'm just going to insert myself in this one. I'm going to say what, people want to hear on this side now.
Yeah, and to a point, you made a good point about Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson hasn't changed. I mean, you from when he was at Fox News, he's changed slightly from Fox News to his podcast today, but it seems to be the facts are changing. His opinion, and his kind. I don't want to say morals, but not necessarily. His opinion and his morals have stayed the same. The facts have changed, and you see his opinion attack those different facts changing, right? You can tell he's a conservative. He's always had that conservative mindset. I'm sure you can go back and find a point when he was on Fox News defending Israel. But
Absolutely.
as the facts have changed, and more things have been revealed about Israel, the the genocide they did in Palestine, the influence they have on the U.S. government, all those things being revealed, the facts have changed, and now he's attacking them. His morals and opinions haven't changed. The facts on the grounds have changed, and he's attacking it. I kind of trust those people more than Ashley St. Clair of yesterday she was MAGA, today she's on a podcast with Gavin Newsom and she's the hero on the left.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's kind of the point I was trying to make is like when Trump was, hey, we're not going to get in any more wars. We're going to focus on America. We're going to get costs down. We're going to bring manufacturing back. We're going to, focus on internal things. Tucker Carlson was like, "That's great. That sounds amazing. I love that."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when Trump went away from that and started going on Venezuela and Iran, and now he's talking about Cuba and things like that, Tucker Carlson was like, "Well, hold on. That's not what I voted
It's
for.
not what any of us voted for.
That's not what anybody wanted. And same with like to extrapolate that to politics. Look at Thomas Massey. Same thing. He
Yeah,
was like, "Hey, I didn't change my views. When MAGA aligned with me, yeah, cool. I'll share a trench with them. But now that they've moved to a different trench, I'm still staying in mine because that's where I was.
yeah.
You
And
know,
and look what happened to them. Luckily enough for like Tucker Carlson, he's had a big enough audience, and people have followed him. But like Thomas Massey and Tucker Carlson, they became and Candace Owens, they became outcasts to the
oh
party.
yeah,
They
they
were
became
kicked out of the
pariahs.
system.
They became pariahs.
Yeah, like that's what a lot of these influencers, these podcasters, YouTubers, and you mentioned earlier, they're afraid to go outside of the
Yeah,
party
they're
lines
fighting to
because,
stay in that ecosystem.
yep, stay in that echo chamber. It's 'cause if not, you become an outcast. There goes your viewers. There
Yeah.
goes your potential
hmm
sponsors and information and an inside route to the party.
so like to your point, yeah, like I said, I don't agree with Tucker Carlson on 90% of his takes. Do I respect him for holding those takes and not fucking swaying on them? Yeah, absolutely. And like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, when he was at Fox News, he was a different guy. I mean, that was a whole thing. But same with kind of Candace Owens when she was with the Daily Wire. But since they've gotten out of those ecosystems, they're like, hey, this is where I'm planting my flag. This is where I'm going to be at.
hmm
Thomas Massey is another great example. I am a progressive. I wanted Thomas Massey to win. I don't agree with Thomas Massey on 93% of his stuff. It's not the fact that I, you know, wanted another conservative who's going to vote with Republicans to be in the House, but it's the fact I wanted somebody who's going to stand on their morals and
hmm
have some integrity.
Somebody's standing up to the machine.
I would rather, hey, me and you, the Venn diagram that we overlap on is nothing basically. It's microscopic. But on those things that we align on, I know I can trust your opinion on because I've seen where you stand on things. You don't sway. You don't, push back. So when you sit there and say, "Hey, I actually want to punish Epstein clients. I want to keep us out of foreign wars. I want to try to bring prices down and help make the average American's life more affordable." I know that you're being honest about that because I've seen where you stand on things.
Yeah, it's things we've talked about and our conversations. Talking about me and you, our conversations have expanded over the years and things we've talked about. I know you, you know me, you know tomorrow because Donald Trump says something that my opinion isn't going to change,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe MSNBC. I don't know. I don't watch a whole lot of progressive stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe something changes in the progressive ecosystem, and tomorrow you're gonna have a different opinion about it. Because I've seen you many times criticize the left. I mean, we had conversations where you were attacking the left during this last campaign, and you
Oh,
were calling them
absolutely.
out. Like
The
you were
only
pissed off that Kamala was essentially picked,
anointed.
anointed the Democratic ticket when what happened to Bernie Sanders in the
Well,
Hillary Clinton
not
situation.
not just that, but just to quickly dive into that,
Yeah,
this is the party that claims, oh, we're fighting for democracy, yet they haven't had a free and open primary since 2004. You
yeah,
know, like they've had a show, but they haven't actually had a actual free and open primary.
no,
But like my opinions will change. I think everybody's
yeah,
opinions will change
yeah.
when presented
When the
with new
facts
information.
change,
Yes,
yes,
when presented with new information, and you should have that. For example, I will. This is one of the things I love to talk about. Property tax. I used to be super pro property tax. I would vote for every property tax increase, in my community when it was like, hey, this is going to go to schools, this is going to go to fire levies, this, that, and the other. I'd vote for it. I loved property tax. I thought hey, this is. I always subscribed to. I remember a video years ago I saw by John Green, and he was talking about, he's like, I love paying property taxes even though I don't have kids in school, because property taxes go to, your local school districts, and I don't want to live in a community full of stupid people. And I'm like, that's a fantastic argument. I love
Hmm.
that. I want to do
Yep.
that. And then I was thinking about it one day. This was within the past year. I was literally driving home from work, and I have a decent little piece of property, nothing crazy, but if push came to shove, I could be self-sufficient here. And I was thinking about like how that would work, and I was like, well, shit, I would still need money for my property taxes. Hypothetically, if I want to scratch off tomorrow that it was just enough to pay off my property, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna put in solar panels. I'm gonna put a small little homestead here. I'm gonna get some chickens and some rabbits or whatever, and I'm just gonna live off the land. I would still need to come up with my property taxes every year. I am a
Yep.
wage slave for the rest of my life, And after thinking about that, presented with that new information and that new light, I was like, actually, you know what? I want property taxes gone now. So
Yeah.
when you are presented with you shouldn't be ready to die on any hill. You should be ready to move hills. You should be ready to move trenches when new facts and new information arises. But you
Yeah.
also shouldn't be doing it just because some guy said so,
Yeah. Somebody who you follow on TikTok or podcast, or TikTok or YouTube, or a podcast, because their opinions change, and then they start bashing it, or they're for something. You shouldn't do that. It's
Now if
hey,
the
maybe
if the
dig into
opinion
this.
makes sense, if they've
If
got
the
some,
opinion makes sense, if they have a good argument,
if they have
logical argument.
exactly, if they have facts and a logic based argument behind it, if Trump came out and was like, hey, you know what, I know I said no more wars and I meant that, but hey, look at all the drugs Venezuela's getting in, and he brought up some statistics and had actual proof and actual numbers showing Venezuela's pumping drugs in. This is why we had to go get Maduro. Okay, maybe I'd be inclined to do that. If he came up and was like, "Hey, we've actually got credible evidence Iran's trying to possess a nuclear weapon, and we can't let that happen. We want to preserve the international peace and the international community and norms and things." Okay, maybe I'd be on the side of that. But when he's pardoning, the what was it, the former leader of Honduras who smuggled like 4 million tons of cocaine into the country or some shit like that,
Yeah.
clearly he actually doesn't care about that shit. When I can go back to videos from the 90s of Netanyahu in Congress going, Iran is 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon by our estimates, and Trump's using that today as an argument for invading Iran. Okay, maybe he's not to be, maybe those aren't the logic based facts that we should be
No,
following to change
no.
our opinion on.
And definitely, give us something more than what was done pre-Iraq war, and that whole campaign of Iraq's going to have weapons of mass destruction, and
Let's brush off this
20,
playbook.
yeah, let's 20 years later just pulling out.
Well, like I saw this was probably a week or two ago. I saw it was the U.S. intelligence suggests that Cuba is, quote, going to imminently strike the U.S. mainland. These
Mm.
motherfuckers can't keep their lights on. They are in rolling blackouts because of the embargoes we have. The only oil getting into that country is from Russia right now, and they're a little busy with Ukraine. Like, I'm supposed to believe that this whole Red Scare, the communists are coming. They're gonna do D-Day on the Miami Dade. Like,
Yeah.
but you're brushing off old playbooks, and it's
Yep.
just like, well, we got to do Cuba next. We got to do
Yep.
Cuba. I could have stayed with the no more wars, but Cuba's gonna strike us imminently. And then you've got fucking where I saw that on? I saw it on the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's
Yep.
news organization. Donald Trump's administration is saying we're gonna get attacked, so we gotta pump this out. Keep in mind the Daily Wire is bleeding fucking viewership, but that's a whole nother story.
I'm gonna talk about that. I used to watch their or listen to their podcasts, right, or their little news shorts. And somebody from me, I'm a Republican, that was too far right. Just the sheer propaganda that I would hear every day coming out of them is just like, at one point I just caught myself like, what the hell are these, like, anything. I think it was just just that. Anything Trump was saying, anything the conservative establishment, the neocons of the party were peddling, I was hearing it the next day from the Daily Wire. And it's like, man, like wow, they really are just it's propaganda.
Well,
I quit listening to it.
those
I quit listening to it.
those online news agencies like the Daily Wire, they were the predecessor to this influencer class we have now. You know,
Yeah, and Ben Shapiro, I used to listen to him quite a bit on my drive to work, but you could see I couldn't stand
he's an Israeli plant, so
yeah, I started hearing that. It wasn't just that, but it was just his religious viewpoint coming out and everything, and it influenced his opinion and how you could start to see it. I could just plainly hear it on my drive, and it's like, man, his ideology is everything to him. It's his opinion, and I'm like, I
well, and I'm okay with that.
unfollowed that real quick.
I'm okay with that to an extent. I mean, religion gives you moral. Well, I won't say it gives you morals. Atheists
Well,
have
no, it
morals.
was
I'm
just
not.
every day. It was just every day. It was like the threat to Israel,
Yeah,
it's threat
he
to
was
Jews,
he was
and
he.
it,
It wasn't his religion. He was spouting the Zionist talking points.
yeah, and it's like, hold on, you're talking about American news, American, uh, headlines for the day, but everything had to be twisted into threat to Israel. And I was like, okay, all right, well, clearly I know where you are, where politically you align. So
Well,
yeah, I'm done listening.
and people are seeing that. I mean, that's why Candace Owens got fired from that.
Yeah,
When the war in Gaza broke out, she was very critical of it, and to the point of like religious beliefs. That was one reason she was critical of it. I believe she's Catholic or Christian, one of those Christian denominations, and I've watched some of her clips where she's like, yeah, no, God doesn't believe in murdering innocent children for no reason. Like if
yeah,
that, like, okay, fair reason to criticize a war, and they went against the Zionist talking points. So Ben Shapiro's like, well, gosh, we can't have that.
I can't have that on there. We gotta get terminated.
But I mean, like they're bleeding viewership now. I mean, I was just watching Sean Ryan's interview with Megan Kelly, and that was one of the things they were discussing was like, the Daily Wire is not going to be here in like 5-10 years. They're not going to have the viewership to keep it up. Even
Well,
though,
the American public opinion has drastically changed on Israel and its influencers.
well, and that's one thing they weren't good enough at. They're trying to walk that line of we're going to stay in the MAGA ecosystem, but a large sect of MAGA, look at Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know they've Lauren Boebert, they've turned against Israel, but they're also trying to walk that Israeli line too. And those two things,
Hmm.
that the Venn diagram of overlap for that is getting smaller by the day.
Yeah,
So
and I wonder where some of that money. I think they'll still be around, but you might see money coming in from out of country sources
if it doesn't already.
if it doesn't already. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just kind of wanted to between the Ben Johnson, attacking Thomas Massey and uh, before we end, that actually is one thing I want to touch on. When Ben Johnson was also attacking Thomas Massey, so I don't know if you saw, pro MAGA candidates won every Republican primary, um, this past
Yes.
primary cycle.
Yep.
He was touting that as like, listen, Trump's policies are still so popular, MAGA is still in control, and this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, they are. This is one other thing that they are lying to you on. And again, I'm attacking the right on this. The left does it too. But in this instance, we'll use Ben Johnson and the idea that, well, actually, the Iran war and these issues that Trump is attacking, they're actually much more popular because look, all these MAGA politicians won in their primaries. Yes, that is factual. MAGA overwhelmingly won in the Republican primaries. They didn't suffer a single loss.
Hmm.
Here's the problem, however. In some of those cases, Israel funneled a shit ton of money into those elections. If you look at the
Get a ton of
breakdown,
money.
and a lot of it was in traditional media, which younger audiences don't go with traditional media as much. They go with things like podcasts. They go with things like online sources like Asmongold and things of that nature. So when you look at the age breakdown of the votes, Thomas Massey overwhelmingly won people under 50. It was all the old people who watched Fox News and saw how
Yep.
terrible Thomas Massey is and how terrible he is for Israel that went out and voted. Now, there's that. But this is something that, like, again, I'm attacking quote unquote MAGA influencers here for, but this applies to the left as well. They aren't telling you the whole truth. Yes, MAGA won in the election, in the primaries. However, MAGA did not win in the general election with Donald Trump because of MAGA Republicans. They won because of a broad coalition of MAGA Republicans, normal Republicans, neocons who were, well, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat, left-leaning people who felt disenfranchised by the Democratic Party. For full disclosure, I did not vote for Trump. You know, I fall into that category, but I always vote third party. MAGA won because of a lot of people voting a third party instead of voting for Kamala. MAGA won because of a lot of independents. MAGA won
Yeah.
because of those disenfranchised leftist voters who, you know, you talked about earlier, the disparaged people who felt that their voice didn't matter and was protest voted for Trump. MAGA won because of a very broad and large coalition. Just because they won a Republican primary does not mean MAGA policies are popular. It does not mean the Iran war is popular. It does not mean letting the Epstein clients go is popular. It does not mean we're going to quote do Cuba next and Lindsey Graham's in the background having a fucking orgasm is popular. You know, it does not mean Israel first is popular. It means that in a portion of the country, they have a slight majority temporarily for now. You know,
Yeah.
it does not mean in a general election that those candidates are going to beat Democrats or independents,
It was
again. Sorry to cut you off, but
oh, no, you're good.
the pendulum swings too, right? You're going to have the
Oh,
Thomas Massey voters who are, hey, the right doesn't actually give a fuck what I say. You know what? I'm going to vote third party, or I'm not going to vote, or I'm going to vote for the Democrat as a protest. It's going to have the independents who go, hey, I voted for Trump, but this is not what I fucking voted for. I didn't vote for Iran war. I voted for no more wars. I didn't vote for, you know, high gas prices, $5 a gallon. I voted for inflation to go down. I didn't vote
mhm.
for Israel to have my Congress by the fucking genitals. I voted for America first. You know, you're going
Yeah.
to have those people going, you know what? Fuck it. I'll go with the Democrats because fuck you. You're going to have
Yeah.
the left uniting again because in their hatred for Trump. That's the only thing that unites the three big factions on the left.
I think this is conversation is completely off topic, but I'm gonna agree with you. The pendulum's gonna swing. The only reason why MAGA truly won was because a lot of disparaged people in the Biden economy. It's worse now. I feel like it's worse now than it was under the Biden economy. Gas is almost $5 a gallon. Yeah, I mentioned earlier, milk, bread, all over $5 a all over $5. Economically, consumers feel worse than any point in recorded history.
Yeah,
The pendulum's going to swing.
we just saw that recently. That report that came out there, that
The
poll that came out,
consumer confidence.
something like that. There was some poll
Yeah.
that's done. It first time ever, you know, a majority of Americans don't feel. I forget
The
however you just worded it.
the pendulum is going to swing, and it's going to swing. I don't I don't know how hard, because the left still doesn't have a game plan. They're still, I don't know what the hell the left's doing,
Well,
to be honest with
the
you.
left's
I don't know what they're.
the left has three big factions, right? The left's three big factions are you have your establishment Democrats. These are, again, think you're boomers, think you're they're instead of watching Fox News, they're watching CNN and MSNBC. They're the older generation. The other two big factions have a little bit of overlap, but they also hate each other. Um, you have the progressives, which I consider myself. They are the ones that are very egalitarian. They are, hey, we believe in equality. We want, we want to push for good tax laws. We want to push. They're your uh, America First leftists, kind of. They
Yeah.
agreed with Trump on America First. These are your Bernie Sanders supporters, right? Then you have the final big faction, which is what this is my own breakdown. Other people kind of maybe do it differently. I consider it the liberals. These are your stereotypical. Think of what every Republican influencer calls a Democrat. The blue-haired, virtue signaling.
Mm,
We're gonna talk big about, we're not going to focus on substantive policies that are going to fix things. We're going to focus on gender wars and culture
yeah.
war things. We're going to focus on, well, maybe trans women should be allowed to use women's bathrooms instead of, hey, let's, fix the economy. These are your performative people on the left. And all three of these factions hate each other. The progressives hate the liberals because they think they're performative. The liberals hate the stereotypical Democrats because they think that they are the ones that got us in this mess, and so do the progressives. Your boomer Democrats, they think that the liberals and the progressives are all these woke young kid hippie things. They all fucking hate each other. But
Yeah.
yes, the one thing that unites all three of these factions is their hatred for Donald Trump. And the thing is that this is where Democrats are actually working out. If you had asked me 6 months ago if the Democrats were going to win the midterms, I would have told you absolutely not. The Democrats are going to
Yeah.
get clobbered. They have no message. They're still sticking with
The
but
Trump
Donald Trump.
administration is just rolling. He was doing all the right things.
Yeah, and they were still sticking with the Trump bad talking points. Then,
Yep.
for whatever godforsaken reason, Trump decided to, I don't know, fucking blow up the engine room in the ship. And
Yeah.
those talking points are now hitting home of Trump bad because now the Democrats can point to 13 dead Americans in Iran. They can point to
Mhm.
hundreds of injured Americans.
Hell,
They
I
can
would I
point
would even go back to just after Venezuela, right? That was a
even that, I think a lot of Americans, just because of how quick it was, sure, even a lot of people on the left didn't agree with it. Like me, for
but it
example,
was
I was,
quick and easy, and people were like, "Oh, that's impressive." Look at us. The economy was still booming.
yeah, the economy was booming. People were like, at the Venezuela thing, I'll use myself as an example. It was like, I was sitting there like in awe of American military might. And then it's like, okay, we had a expertly crafted operation. Sure, do I think
Hmm.
this whole thing with Venezuela was important? Absolutely not. Do I think that Maduro is a terrible person, and am I upset to see him in American custody? Absolutely not. Do I think we should have done it? No. But I'm not going to lose my mind because, hey, it went off without a hitch. Now, if it had not gone off without a hitch, I would have had some things to say about it. But
Yeah.
two things can be true at once. I can think it was stupid and it worked out. But then immediately after we do Iran, and now look at it.
Yeah.
And again, to that point, is like the Democrats were able to keep the same message, and Trump played into it.
Yep. Trump just did what Trump was going to do, and yeah, here we are with 20% of the world's oil locked up in the Persian Gulf, and inflation is through the roof.
Yeah,
The
if
economy's not improving.
if the election were held today, like to what you were saying, that pendulum would swing, and I think you would absolutely see Democrats clobber the Republicans in the
Oh,
midterms.
absolutely.
And now, do I think they're
But
going to get like a super majority in the Senate? Probably not. Will they have a majority in the House? Oh, absolutely.
yep.
Now, depending on how this stuff plays out into November, I could absolutely see the Democrats still taking back the House and Senate. I mean,
Yeah.
what was it
If
like?
things don't improve.
Like a month ago, Trump's pitch to Republicans was basically, "Hey, you have to vote for my people because if you don't, they're going to impeach me." Like that was his selling
So
point.
that was his selling
Like
point.
not, "Hey, the economy's great. Hey, you've got the cheapest gas in 20 years. Hey, food is cheap. Hey, Americans are finally getting savings and starting to have rainy day funds." It's like, "Hey, they're going to impeach me. Please don't let that happen."
Yeah.
And then you had these fucking Benny Johnsons who were sitting there and going, the left is just going to impeach Trump. You can't vote for them. You can't vote. You have to vote out these rhinos who aren't America first, even though somehow America first means being in Iran. America first means we need to tie the American and Israeli militaries together. That's
Yeah.
definitely what's best for us.
America.
But yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
kind of touch in on all that between the Ashley St. Clair good lord, rebrand and Benny Johnson, kind of attacking Thomas Massey and everything. I just kind of wanted to touch on all that and be like, hey, you realize these people are just saying this stuff because it pays the bills, right? Most of them probably don't even believe it. And the moment it stops paying the bills, look at Ashley St. Clair. She rebrands. She goes a different direction to find something that will pay the
Yeah.
bills. Because
If you see somebody,
I bet being on Gavin's Newsom's podcast wasn't for free.
yeah, if you see somebody shifting their who they are for a financial win, you probably shouldn't trust them. Or if their entire financial stake is set on, I guess, politics, right? In a sense, you probably shouldn't trust them.
Well, you can have your entire financial stake on politics. God willing, I hope to be making millions off this podcast one day. But
Sure, I probably should have worded that
yeah,
differently.
yeah, you can have your
If
entire financial stake, but when you see that every time the wind blows a different way, they're immediately
yes, that's a
changing it. That
better way to put it.
they
A
have
better way to put it.
zero
The winds of
consistency.
change.
Yeah, they have no consistency. They don't give you a rationale for when they do change their views on something other than, well, Trump told me, so we just got to trust Trump, or Trump's bad, so we just got to trust the Democrats. If they're not giving you any more information than that on this is why I changed my opinion, or if they do give you the information and it's just the typical party talking points, maybe don't trust them.
Yeah, stands to, reason that they're probably full of shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's about all I got.
That's about all I got.
Touch on this. Everyone, be safe out there. See you in the next one. Okay, bye.
Don't forget to subscribe and like.
I'm bad at saying that. If you could, we don't need it with our massive audience. Okay,
Massive audience
Just-
out here pulling Asmon gold numbers on
exactly.
YouTube.
We don't need it where the sponsorships are in the pipeline. I'm sure, but if you could help a poor man out, be greatly appreciated. Okay, bye.
See you.